So once I stopped caring about whether or not it's going to book, and don't get me wrong, I want my auditions to book because that's how I pay my bills. But once I stopped going, this is going to be the one, that's when my numbers started going up because I started having more fun.
Hey guys, welcome back to Gacha Tour Show, where we talk about everything and nothing related to gacha. I'm here today with my friend. You guys may know her as the ENV of Topaz Discussion, Anby from Zenless Zone Zero, Lawin from Shinova, Rosetta from Punishing Grey Ravens, and Perfumer from Arknights. Say hi, Sam!
Hey! Hi! Hi, Rubee!
Hi, Sam! How you been? What you been up to?
I've been good! Been busy, busy. Just, working and hanging out with my dogs and my husband and forgetting to water my plants, the usual. I started playing Civ 6, so there goes all of my free time.
Oh, The Sims 6? Like the Sims?
Oh no, Civ 6, like Civilization 6.
I was like, wait, what is that? What's that game?
It's okay. They're both super time consuming. I just finished my first full game. It was I think it took 18 hours, and I just started my second one yesterday, and I played for literally 9 hours straight.
Oh,
so
dang.
It's really good.
So Sam, with voice acting, I wanted to ask, how did you get started?
I got started in a really unconventional way compared to a lot of other actors. So long story short, I like staying busy.
Oh.
And when I focus on something, I tend to I get really into it. I started in late November, early December of 2020. So it was during the pandemic, and there's a whole new era of voice actors coming up because remote recording is so accessible. Everyone's recording stuff remote, both professional projects and indie stuff, which has always been remote. But I was wrapping up my master's degree, which I did a master's degree while I was working full time because I had too much free time. I was in my mid-20s, and I was I have so much free time. I don't know what I'm gonna do, and I live in a part of the country that's very career competitive. So a master's degree here is almost the bachelor's equivalent. A lot of people in my area have master's degrees, and I was I'm gonna go corporate because I worked hospitality management, and I was I'm gonna go work for one of those big hotel companies. I'm gonna go work corporate. I need a master's degree if I want to do well, if I want to be competitive enough. So I got my master's degree, and I realized I have so much free time now, I don't know what to do with it.
Wow.
Graduated college, and then I went straight into working. And for the first semester equivalent, I was just working full time, and I was I'm so bored. What am I going to do? So I started my master's degree the following spring. And then finished it in 4 semesters. So technically 2 years I finished it. And I was well, what do I do now with all my time? And I was talking to some friends. We were literally playing Genshin Impact on Discord. This was early Genshin Impact, November 2020 Genshin Impact.
That's the first time.
Yeah, dude. I was I don't know what to do with my free time now. I miss being a creative. I've been in band and in music my entire life. So I was in band throughout high school and college, and I've been playing piano since I was 3 or 4 years old. So I was I want to do a local ensemble, but because of the pandemic, everything was closed. So I was damn, what am I gonna do? And I was maybe theater, and I was nope, also closed. And my friend was hey, well, I mean, I do work sometimes with these indie passion projects, and from time to time we'll have indie voice actors come in, and we'll do comic dubs, and we'll dub video game stuff, old Fire Emblem supports, and just for fun. And you should try it. Here's this website.
Oh.
And they sent me to castingcall.club, and I was I've never acted in my life. I never had time for drama or theater or anything because I was always in band. And in high school, I also liked being busy. So I had no free time for anything except for what I was already doing. I was I don't know about that one, Chief. I can't act. I don't act. And they were nah, do it. So I went on. This is essentially a Craigslist style,
Craigslist?
Not forum. I mean, it's you post your listing for the jobs that you, or the jobs, or the bookings or whatever, the projects that you have and the roles available, and anyone can audition for it. So I had one of those in the mid 2010s when you bought an iPhone and you got those wired headphones that came with them.
Yeah.
The Apple headphones. That was the only microphone I owned.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm sitting in my basement level living room with my HVAC blaring, reading for projects like this. You know,
yes, the microphone is right there.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, I don't know what I'm doing. This was early December, and by Christmas, I was like, okay, I'm gonna look into a microphone ? And I had like bought like a USB one on Amazon, and then I saw there were like sales on like Guitar Center, so I ended up getting my first like interface mic set. I got like a Scarlett. It was on sale for like $200. And like I was an adult making adult money, so like yeah, I can invest in my hobbies. What's $200? That's nothing, right? To a working adult sometimes, maybe. I realized I really, really liked it. And I was really embarrassed because I hadn't told anyone. I hadn't told my husband. And I was like, oh my God, I'm just doing this in secret. Like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to think. And like, I hadn't really met anyone else in the community yet. And so I was just kind of by myself, like quietly on like Casting Call Club and behind the voice actors back when they still had like their forum with their job postings and stuff, like just auditioning for these like little projects. And I was having so much fun doing it. And I joined the Voice Acting Club Discord server where I met someone who picked me up for like a World of Warships mod. And that was my first paying gig, and it was like $400. And I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. I'd been doing it for like 2 months. I was so excited. And, you know, I'm still in touch with this like developer to this day. Like, you know, I still like, I really appreciate him for, you know, giving me like that first shot and that first like really experiencing what this grind was like, because I fell so head over heels over it. And I started taking like, you know, group classes and private lessons. And, you know, I just wanted to learn so much. So I was, you know, spending so much money on all of these like, you know, just classes and just learning and meeting people and seeing what all of this was about and just getting as much experience as I could. And just, you know, I like I said, when I get into something, I like really get into it.
Yeah, no.
So I like hyper fixated on it a lot. You know, it was my hobby. It was like my reintroduction to the performing arts because I had been out of it for like 2 years. And I was just so like mesmerized and captivated by everything about performing again.
Oh my God.
That, you know, I slowly met more people in the community, and you know that's where I met some of my really good friends today, like Coco Steele voices Belle and Alice Mora voices Nekomata and Robin. Like I've known these guys like since the near beginning of my career because you know we all started in a similar period of time, and we all just kind of like, you know, birds of a feather, just like yoink, we all just kind of like grouped together. Yeah, I met a really supportive community and just like kept training and kept practicing and kept booking little things here and there that, you know, turned into things that were a little bigger than the last thing, that turned into things that were a little bigger than the last thing. And, you know, applying for agencies, and like that's a whole competitive thing in itself, especially when I first started looking in like early 2022. And then eventually a friend sent me a link to a like agent night with my current agent now. Read for him, and after so many rejections that I was like, dude, I'm not taking another agent night. Like I've spent so much money on these. Like I'm done. I'm just going to go back to training. Clearly, like I don't have what they're looking for. You know, that's totally fine with me because this is like career level stuff at this point. You don't get an agent because you want to do it for fun. You get an agent because you're taking the next step in your career.
Yeah.
Like people do this for a living. Agents, you know, this is what they do for a living. So they're going to take this seriously, and so should I. And I'm like, if I'm not there yet, that's fine. So I took this agent night, and I just, you know, I like really vibed with the agent. He liked my read, and I was like, great, cool. I'm going to send an email tomorrow because that's what I always do. Just send like a follow-up like, hey, thanks. Here's my materials. Hope to hear from you. Which 9 times out of 10 I didn't. Or, you know, I kept sending them emails until they were like, hey, we're not interested. And I'm like, okay. And then within like 10 minutes, he replied. And he was like, hey, I would love to have you on board. Like, here's paperwork. Here's like 8 auditions for you. Go. And I was like, and then he called me, and I was like, bro, I don't know how to talk on the phone. I'm a millennial. We hate talking on the phone. Like, oh my gosh. Or at least like young millennials hate talking on the phone. And I'm like sitting in my office at my last day job talking to someone with a North Hollywood phone number. Like my heart's racing, and I'm like, oh my God, is this real? This is happening. This is happening. And like later that day, he sent me my first couple auditions, and one of them was Arknights and one of them was Perfumer. So I booked one of my first auditions from him. And, you know, like I'm so grateful. I give so much credit to my agent for giving me the connections that I have now and the auditions that I have now, and here I am.
Yeah, that's here you are, and everyone knows you. That's awesome, dude. Like when you talk about how you started, like the passion when you focus locked in, that's really inspiring because it started from a hobby. You just didn't know what you want to do. You picked it up for fun. You mentioned that you were even embarrassed. You kept it to yourself. But seeing you push and push and push for it, it made my heart warm. That's really inspiring, Sam.
Aww. Thanks.
Yeah, because
it was really scary. It was really scary. I'd never done anything like this before.
Yeah.
And I've always so self-conscious of trying new things because this is a whole discussion in and of itself, but I am a victim of the gifted programs in school where they look at you and they're like, you're special. You can do everything the first time you try it.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm very risk averse because I'm so used to, barely skating by school, kind of barely skating by college, except not really. That's also a different story. And so if I don't immediately succeed in something, I go, nope, I'm good. And I back out. So here I am doing something that I have no experience doing. That I have no confidence in doing, that I've never done before, that I'm really scared of doing, and I'm pushing myself beyond my comfort zone because I'm desperate for that connection in the arts again. And I'm sitting at dinner with my husband at home, and I'm looking at him and I'm just like, Jamie, I have something to tell you, and I'm really nervous.
Oh my gosh.
And he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, Jamie, I'm an actor. And he's like, what? And I'm like, I'm an actor! And I'm so embarrassed! And he's like, what are you talking about? And I told him, and he was so supportive, and he was like, wait, this is so cool. And I was like, I don't want to talk about it!
That's so funny because if I was in that situation, oh, I need to tell you something, I would think worst case scenario, my heart would start beating. I'd be like, what's going on? What do you have to tell me? What is this?
Yeah, I know. I mean, I definitely dramatized it at dinner. I was just so nervous. And to this day, I can't act with Jamie in the room. My booth is right behind me. His gaming PC is right here. And my booth is double walled. So I can record while he's in here just fine.
Yeah.
He's playing games as long as he's not yelling. But sometimes he can hear me. And I don't want him to hear me.
Oh my gosh.
No. You can't see that side of me. So I do commercial stuff. That's fine. That's at speaking volume. But when I'm doing character I'm yelling, or I'm getting real passionate, or I'm doing anime girl voices and I'm like, nah, Jamie, you gotta go. You can't be in here. You can't hear me. I'm sorry. Get out.
Oh my gosh. That's so cute. Oh my god.
I literally kicked him out last night. I was like, I have auditions to do. Get out.
Oh my gosh. Dude, that's hilarious. But yeah, hearing your journey, it's inspiring because it's if you put your mind to it, you can really become what you want to be, And yeah, I'm sure the journey was tough, I actually want to know when you were throughout the years of audition, what was the rejection rate like, because it can be really discouraging.
Oh my God.
And it can make people feel oh, they're not, fit for it really. But I just want to know what it's like.
Yeah. You don't become an actor because you like feeling good about your work. You do it because you like doing it, regardless of the result. It really breaks my heart to see people, join really any performing art because they want the serotonin of success, because the serotonin that success brings, because the performing arts in itself is so inherently competitive, especially when you're in a position where you're going up against many other creatives who all want the same thing as you, and there's only one available. So I think I don't remember what my numbers were for my first couple years, but I know in 2023, I think I submitted about 900 auditions, 950 auditions between stuff from my agent, stuff that I've direct marketed, studio rosters I was getting stuff directly from, all those and the such. And of those 900, I think I booked 3.5% of them.
Wow.
Which was probably about 30 jobs. So of the 900, I only booked 30 of them. And those are all auditions that I booked, not recurring clients or people who reached out to me directly. But of the 900 auditions I sent out, only 30 of them said yes. That is not a bad booking rate. I'm really proud of that return. I know there are some people who have much higher booking rates, 5%. Damn, 5% is a really high booking rate. People are saying as long as you're booking 1.5%, then you are doing well. When I submit auditions, I am like throwing spaghetti. Like, you know the saying, throwing wet spaghetti at a wall, see what sticks? Those are my auditions. I'm just like, pew, pew, which one's gonna stick? Is any of them gonna stick? No, it's not up to me. Like you can book or not book for literally any reason at all. Like the casting director could have had a really bad morning. Their, grandparent could have passed away yesterday and now they're in a bad mood. Or like they got a telemarketing call and they're like, damn, this, and they throw their computer across the room and your email gets marked as read, but like, they hadn't actually seen it, so they never got your audition. You know what I mean? Like, or maybe it was between you and one other person.
Yeah.
But you ended your last sentence in an up instead of a down. And they were like, nope, that other one sounds better. And that's the reason why you didn't get it, because of a personal preference that you would have never known. So I think 2023 was the year that I actually like locked in on that. And I used to be like, I have to book this. And I would spend so much time on all of my auditions. And I would get in my head really and be like, what does the casting director want to hear? What do they want from me? And I'm trying to give them what I think they want.
Yeah.
But so is everyone else. So everyone's delivering almost the exact same product. And when I stopped worrying about what do they want and what's going to book, and I was like, I want to have fun with this. I want to, spend 10 minutes creating this character, or like even gaslighting the casting director into no, this is the character that you want me to portray, right? Because this is the specs. You gave me these parameters to play with it. If this is not your vision, this is what you told me to do, buddy. Like, nah, dude. And sometimes that's what they go and they go, oh, shit, I never thought about that for this character, right?
Yeah.
Like, sure, like that's something that never crossed our minds. We really like that. Let me send it to the client and see what they think. You literally never know what's going to work. So once I stopped caring about whether or not it's going to book, and don't get me wrong, I want my auditions to book because that's how I pay my bills. But once I stopped going, this is going to be the one, that's when my numbers started going up because I started having more fun. I started trusting the process, started trusting my gut. I started leaning on my acting training and my instincts instead of trying to fit my creation, my interpretation into the size box I think they're looking for. And if they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. I'm going to submit 899 other auditions this year. And one of those someone is bound to like. So
Oh my God, no, that's awesome because it's like interpretation, how you interpret a character. And then it's like different per like perspective, you have the directors and then you have your vision. And of course, because you're the voice actor, you can bring like life to this character with what you think is best.
Yeah, and then it's a completely different ballgame once you do book, because once you get in the booth, then you continue to narrow down. I get in there and they're like, all right, let's go narrow her down. I'm like, so what about the audition y'all picked? Did y'all not want that? Or like, because sometimes they get the audition and they're like, they're a good actor, we'll take them. But then they're like, no, what you did for your audition? No, we don't want that. And I'm like, okay, sure, because you never know. They all handle production differently. They all handle their characters differently. They all handle their, their creations, their IPs and everything differently. So you never know what's going to happen once you get into the booth. Sometimes you get in there and they're like, damn, I really like what you did for line 3 of your audition. Can we do a listen and repeat of that line specifically? And you're just like, hell yeah. We are sharing one brain cell right now. Me and the writers on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Like we connected. We locked in there. But then sometimes it's like, we like the choices that you made, but we don't like everything else. But we trust you, so let's work together. So you never know how these things are going to turn out.
Ooh, wow. Hey, so how does the overall casting work then? Because you're telling me the process of it, but like from the very beginning, how does the casting work?
Yeah, so like everyone's a little different. I have personally cast one thing ever, and I like sent it to my to an agency to do it for me. There are a couple different ways it can happen. So basically, whenever like there is an individual who is casting, the casting director, or if they are casting through like a studio or however they're casting through it, they were hired by the client or they're in-house with the clients. How these things work, from my understanding, is like the client's like, hey, we need a studio. Send us, whatever, like what, like I don't know if it's like a request for proposal or however I'm not going to pretend to know the intricacies there, but basically they end up narrowing down a studio. They get the studio or the individual casting director and they decide, okay, we're working with you. So you are the one who's going to get us our, top 5, 10, 15, 20 auditions, send us your best, and then we'll decide. And then it's the duty of that individual, whoever is casting, to procure all of those auditions, whether it's through agents, working with like personal casting rosters, meaning they have a list of actors that they already know personally or that they send auditions to when they have other projects, or they have, personal recommendations or requests. They go, hey, I know Ruby's really good at this character type. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to send it to her and I'm going to send it to all these other people, but I definitely want to hear from Rubee. Like that kind of stuff happens all the time,
okay.
Or they'll go, hey, I know that, Sam's with Dean Panera Talent. So I'm going to go email Dean and say, hey, can I hear from Sam for this specifically? It depends on so many different ways how they decide who's going to read for what. But basically, they go and they get their long email list of people whose contact they already have, people whose contact that they like, the people they want to hear from that are through, different agencies. And an agent really is just a representative of the talent. Agencies don't cast anything. They are basically just the third party that manages all of my clients and me.
Okay.
So my agent sends me auditions from all those casting directors, just like the one we were just now talking about. They send auditions to my agent and all the other agencies, and then the agent goes, hey, Sam, audition for you. Hey, Sam, audition for you. Hey, Sam, audition for you. Or, hey, this one requested you. Or, hey, another audition for you. And I go, okay, cool. And I send them all my MP3s, and they send it back to the client or to the casting director. And then if one of the spaghetti noodles stick, they come back and they go, hey, we want Sam for this project. Can you get me her availability? And that is the entire purpose of an agency, is so that I'm not talking to 15 different clients at once. I'm talking to my one agent who is talking to all of them for me. And they handle payment and negotiations and contracts, which is really nice, but I pay them a commission. So that works out for me, honestly. And they also, a lot of agencies have connections with casting directors that I won't have myself anyway. Like there are some like commercial casting directors and commercial casting houses and ad agencies that I cannot reach out to them and say, hey, I really want to audition for you. They would say, hey, we only go to agencies. Sorry. Like we prefer keeping our points of contact concise and professional or whatever the reasons might be. And they'll be like, let me know when you're with an agency. Or if you're with an agency we already work with, then we'll hear from you. So it's all about the business relationships that these guys have and whether or not they like get the materials to send to their talent. But like, and the agent really just represents us and sends us the auditions that we probably wouldn't get by ourselves anyway.
Yeah.
And then they coordinate all the logistics. But yeah, so that's how auditions generally work. And agents also will like fight for their talent if it's like, hey, dude, like I really can't go in studio. I'm really sick. Or, I have a hard time. Like I can't stand for long periods of time. I really need a chair. Like they advocate for their talent a lot too for individuals who like have accommodations or, for example, like I don't live in Los Angeles. And so my agents are amazing. And whenever they can, they try and get me remote accommodations because they know I'll fly to go in studio. I do it all the time. But they're like, if we can save Sam a plane ticket, we'll save Sam a plane ticket.
Nice.
And I'm like, I appreciate you guys. And they know I'll show up because I've just popped in their office sometimes like, hey, I'm back. And they're like, why are you here? And I'm like, because you told me to be here. Like,
Yeah, he's like, hello, I'm right here.
And because they have relationships with these clients that like clearly I don't, they work their magic and they come back to me.
Yeah.
That's how casting works for, I would imagine, like, 90% of things. And then, of course, sometimes, like, there are some studios that we work with directly where, like, I would get an audition direct from a studio, for example, and they're like, hey, we've got a video game or an anime or commercial or whatever. Send me your auditions. And then I send it. And because I already have this relationship, if I choose to work with them directly and not bring my agent into it, then, like, I'll be like, hey, here's my audition. And they'll get back to me and be like, hey, Sam, what does your availability look like next week? And I go, like, on Tuesday, I'm Friday, I'm busy. You know what I mean? So, like, there are a couple different ways it can go. But at the end of the day, like, casting is all handled by whoever the client hires to handle casting. It really just depends on what the client wants. But, yeah, I know that was a lot of information.
It's actually really insightful because with the casting, I drew, like, a parallel to, like, gaming agencies, So, like, with content creators, when they join an agency, a lot of these games, especially if they're new and upcoming, they'll reach out to the agencies, be like, oh, hey, I want to work with these people. But then the agency will be like, oh, you can have this person, but here are other creators. Would you want to work with them? And then they'll take a look at like our portfolio, our YouTube, Twitch, and then kind of like pick and choose. Pretty much like the agency is like third party, like the messenger,
Exactly. Exactly.
And then I know that a lot of games, especially if you're indie, they will not reach out to you. Like what you had mentioned, they only work with agencies. So I was drawing like a parallel from like a content creator gaming, perspective to like the voice acting. So it's pretty like it's like 1-to-1 pretty much.
Yeah, it's super similar. And there was one time where I was casting for something, and I knew the director, and they were like, "Hey, can you cast something for me? Because I don't have the same resources you do." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, I'll make it easy for myself, and I will just, I put together the casting document and I send it to my agency, the agency that who represents me. They represent other people." And I was like, "Hey, agent, can you send this out to all of your male talent, please, and have all the auditions come back to me?" And that's what he did. And the client paid the agency fee, so the commission was taken care of for. So I didn't pay anything because, that's not my position to pay for stuff anyway. Yeah, and I just got like a Dropbox folder with like 60 auditions by the due date and just listened to all of them and picked from there. So that's pretty much how it goes.
Yeah, and then shoot, I was gonna say something and I forgot. So maybe it's not that important. I was like,
You're good.
Oh wait, what I wanted to mention was you had mentioned the agency, like if you're not in Los Angeles, right, or like LA. I do know that like a lot of times, like some clients will also reach out and be like, oh, like do they live in LA? Because then they're having these collaborations or IRL events that they want to invite the creators to, but then it's kind of like, oh, what if they're not from there? And then the agency will like take care of it, or like they'll negotiate with the client to fly you out. So yeah, that was like the parallel that I had seen, because you mentioned that you work remote, and then so like, if they want you there, then like the agency will work things out.
It can be kind of tough too sometimes, especially not living where all of the production happens, because like they could go with literally anyone else who lives there and just make their own lives easier. But if the client, they really connected and resonated with my audition, and they like me, and they're like, nah bro, like we want Sam, like we can play a little bit of scheduling Tetris to make this happen, because sometimes games record same week. Sometimes they record the next week, sometimes they record weeks later. A lot of commercials record same week, but commercials are also almost always remote anyway, so that's not an issue for me personally. But like, if I get an avail check, if I audition for a game and they're like, hey, it records Friday, and I submit it on Monday, and then I get a call Thursday like, hey Sam, they need you in studio on Friday, like I will begrudgingly book a plane ticket. I will ask if they are flexible for Monday, just in case. Just to kind of give myself some options and kind of work some scheduling stuff out. But also the difference between me hopping on a plane and getting there in like 5 hours versus someone sitting in 2.5 hours of Los Angeles traffic driving from Orange County to Burbank for a session. Like anything can happen to anyone while they're traveling. We all, want the smoothest experience getting from point A to point B, like for everyone. But, like life happens. So all that's important is that I will be in studio if they need me in studio. It's always worked out for me. I've always been there. I haven't had any travel problems. Would like to keep it that way. But I mean, hey man, I show up for work when they need me.
That is the best thing that you can offer to them. I actually wanted to ask, because what was voice acting like before the pandemic versus now? Oh, sorry, at the beginning of the pandemic. Like more things are becoming less remote. I know school is less remote, work is less remote now.
The opportunities have definitely kind of like shifted. There are some things that are like no longer on the table now, which is a little like, oh damn, like a lot of anime is now completely in person, either in Dallas or Los Angeles. There are some studios, mostly LA based and New York based, who will do anime and other dubbing remote. But like, they're few and far between, and there are already so many people competing for those like roles anyway that I'm like, meh, if I book, I book. If I don't, I won't. If I don't, whatever. Like I'm not fighting to, be in any one particular medium. I'm just happy to work and pay my bills. Also, I love what I do, so I'll be happy anywhere. So like a lot of those, like I just don't have access to. So I know if I'm in LA, I would have like, more opportunities for dubbing, lots of live action dubbing, lots of like Korean dubs and, J-dubs and like Brazilian dubs. I have friends who are in like, reality TV show dubs from shows in like Brazil. And I'm like, hell yeah, get it, and like that can be a consistent paycheck. So there's like an entire like part of the industry that's just like permanently out of my reach now. And like, I'm okay with that. That's what I get for working on the other side of the country, but also I'm not going to give up my 2.0 interest rate on my mortgage to move to Los Angeles for some dubbing jobs, right? I'm picking my battles here. But like there are some studios now that do prefer a lot of in-person recording. That being said, like there are still a lot that do work remote. Like I see, I don't want to say 50-50. I want to say like my agents send me stuff that's in studio because they know I'll go in studio and I have been in studio and I do travel for work. But like I want to say I'm still seeing like, you know, equal remote in person with like a slight lean on remote. There are some clients that like I get to work remote with regardless because I've already worked with them remote before and they know who I am and they know that like my studio like is approved and stuff. So I'm really grateful for those opportunities. Like some clients are like, nah, in person. Sam's fine though. Like I'm like, oh my God, thank you. I appreciate you.
Because like, I'm the exception. Like, oh my God, thank you.
But you know, at the end of the day, like the preference of in studio versus remote, it's like partially the studio's preference, partially the client's preference. Because there are some clients who are like, sorry, in studio only, but the studio is like, we do a lot of remote work. Are you sure? And then the client's like, no, if they're not in studio, you know, then like we're not okay with that because there are so many factors that come into remote setups. Like, you know, if you're in studio, then, you know, everyone's space sounds exactly the same with the same equipment in the same room with the same team or whatever. Meanwhile, my booth hits the requirements, but it is objectively a different room and it sounds different from their room. And I have a different microphone and a different interface and a different DAW. So like to like the layman's ear, it's the same. But when it comes down to like the technical stuff, they're going to have to like QA and like match it or however they need to do. Every studio's different, but they're going to have to like, you know, make sure that my box sounds the same as their box with everyone else recording in their box. So there's a lot of like, you know, sound engineering that's involved too. And that has to do with some of the client or the studio's decisions to bring people in studio versus not in studio. So at the end of the day, it's up to them. Do I wish everything was still as remote as it was, you know, 4 years ago? Absolutely, because I would love to see more people to have the same opportunities that I did when I was auditioning for, you know, anime at home and like other games at home. But also, you know, like a lot of people move to where the work is. I would do the same if I had the opportunity to. So I'm like picking the next best way to get there. But also because I'm not there, I understand that I'm not going to have all of the same opportunities. And that's something that I'm okay with because there are other ways to make money that are, you know, remote, like audiobooks. I'm not very good at audiobooks, but I prefer not to do them. Listen, there are people who are very good at audiobooks and I leave those to them because they're masters in their field for a reason.
Okay, wait, but Sam, I present to you. What about like not audiobooks but ASMR?
Oh my God.
In the character of like that you voice. What about that?
That sounds like an IP nightmare that I don't want to deal with.
I was like, all right, never mind. I try to speak for the community, you know.
That's when like the indie actors and the people at home who are like impressionists, like they can go off and they go have fun with that. You know, like I, as the individual who is like the English voice for a character, have that very like fine line that's also like frowned upon if I participate in some fan work. But by all means, anyone who does voice work at home for fun or for money, I don't give a you go off with your Anby or Topaz or anyone. Like go have fun with your bag.
Let's go. Speaking of Anby and Topaz, let's start with Topaz. Tell us a bit on how you created Topaz's personality and the voice that you have for her.
Well, her voice is me. This was like the first audition I had gotten from this casting director in a while. And I did have a little bit of that like, ooh, I need to get this right pressure. Because that was like almost a year before I decided to just kind of like throw spaghetti and see what happens. Like this was still when I was like in that, oh my God, everything needs to be perfect. And this was one that happened to work out. I remember getting her casting document and they were just, you know, they have all the generic specs and it's like, here's her estimated age range, you know, here's what she does for work. This is her personality. This is her attitude at work. Basically, I was reading it and I was like, okay, she works really hard. She's a girl boss. She's a young manager. You know, she's very serious with her work. And I will say that the audition lines that I got were personality-wise, I want to say a little different from how she's portrayed both in combat and when we first met her. A lot, if I remember correctly, the audition lines I got were basically the lines that you get when you go in and you listen to their voice and you hear them talk about like their day or the weather, you know, all of those. So like personality stuff that you don't really get to see a whole lot in game, but it's like, you know, it's the pillars of the character and like the building blocks of their personality. So I was just reading the casting doc and I was like, damn, I feel you, girl. I get you. And I think I was really just like tired that day and I was like, I don't want to say I don't want to do this, but like, you know, like I'm not going to push against, like my gut is telling me just show up as me and see what happens. I'm not going to fight against my gut because I'm still trying to learn how to trust her. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go in as Sam Slade and see what happens. And that worked out. Which is so crazy because I was relating to her and like I separate myself from the characters that I voice because I'm not one of those, I don't want to be the actor who's like, oh, my whole personality are the characters that I voice because I'm like, I am separate from them.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that I don't relate to them in some way, shape, or form. Like all actors, you know, become their characters when they're in the booth. Some of us also just so happen to have a lot of overlapping traits with them outside of the booth too. Like when I auditioned for Topaz, I was also like a mid-level manager at my job. I was in the same age range that Topaz was, you know, like I took my work very, very seriously because as a female mid-level manager who's young, you know, a lot of the people who report to me were like even twice my age. And I was like, well, now I need to talk, you know, Topaz in these situations. I'm putting myself back into my work that I was at, you know, 6 hours ago, talking to people who report to me who are twice my age. Like, how do I address them? You know, I'm stern. I take my work seriously. You know, like I end my sentences in periods instead of exclamation points. You know, like unlike in an email where we all have to be nice and friendly, or we're like mean people. You know, she takes her work seriously. And that's pretty much, those are the pillars that I really stuck with her. And that's just kind of what I ran with the audition. And then I heard back much later than I would normally hear back for auditions. I had like forgotten that I auditioned for her. I'm not gonna lie.
That's a long time.
I got the email and I was like, who the hell is Topaz? I went to my email and I like typed in the email box like Topaz and I was like, oh shit.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. Like that. Okay.
Whoa.
All right. So I showed up my session and, you know, like the character, I don't know whether they were still in like an exploratory phase with her, but like, you know, she was very like girly pop. And I was like, oh shit, big sister, let's go. And then we showed up for like the actual like stuff and a couple months later for like her story. And the director was like, people are going to hate her and hate you. And she's going to be very serious. And I want you to say everything like you're holding a taser behind your back. And I was like, what? What did you just say?
What? That's a complete like 360, 180.
It was a little crazy. It was basically like take my audition interpretation and just like dial her up to 100. Didn't know we were playing an antagonist, but let's do it. Because I don't know what like the writers were writing at that time. You know, things change all the time in this industry. It's like, trust the writers, whatever, I'll do it. And so that was a fun session. It was challenging. I'm not used to playing, like at the time I wasn't used to playing antagonists and overly serious characters.
Yeah.
So I was like, could I be meaner? I don't know. And looking back, I'm like, damn, Sam, you could have been meaner. You could have twisted the knife a little more.
Oh, wow.
But it's fine. I still think she was stern enough. Like, you know, she's confident. She's good at her job. You know, and I think that showed enough, and that did what it needed to do based on the public perception of her.
I was like, you did an amazing job. Like, people still, literally when Topaz shows up, people are like, oh my gosh, she's here to collect our taxes. Like,
she do be a debt collector. I mean, she shows up because people, you know, aren't doing what they should be doing. And she's basically repo, but like not repo. I don't know. I mean, she tried repoing a whole planet. But I mean, like, she's like, bro, the way I've interpreted her character based on how she is portrayed in battle versus out of battle, that to me reads like clocked in and not clocked in. Like, you know, when you meet her versus after you meet her and after you get to know her and stuff, I'm just like, she just works real hard while she's on the clock. And then she clocks out and then goes to her spaceship in the sky and cuddles with all her animals.
Oh yeah.
You know, and all her warp trotters and her Numby and all her babies.
Her Numby,
and,
so
you know,
cute.
that's a good time. I have literally 6 of these in my office.
That's so cute. Oh my god.
So many of them.
Oh my god.
They're all official. They're official babies.
Oh my god, dude.
From the Hoyo store.
Anything that Hoyo makes, like those creatures, they're so freaking cute.
No, literally my first ever session, we were doing combat stuff, and I saw Numby. I didn't know Numby was a thing until my first session, and I had to sit down. I was laughing so hard. I was like, "You're telling me she throws a pig? She literally throws a pig," and they like laughed, and I was like, "This is the funniest shit I've ever seen." And I was like, "I'm just saying, if you guys have plushies of this little guy, I will buy them." And lo and behold, years later, I bought 6.
So cute. Yeah, and then the pig, it does like the stonks thing, like the gif of stonks. So it's like really cute.
I love how serious and unserious your character is at the same time. It's so funny.
Yeah, and then of course, like her design is really nice too. I love her design.
Oh my god, I know. I was like, oh my god, she's not wearing a skirt or a dress. That's crazy.
I know. I won't lie, man. Topaz, she's a baddie. You know, people love her design.
She's a baddie, man. I have that cosplay. I cannot rock that cosplay. Honestly, holy moly. I was like, girl, I have a picture on Twitter somewhere. I'd like gotten it and I was like, oh my god, look, I like put it on and then I like haven't put it on since.
Oh no, Sam, you a baddie. You a baddie.
Oh, you're so sweet.
You're a baddie, Sam. Yeah, no, that's awesome with Topaz. So like, you know how you mentioned like her personality, you had to like up it by like 100%, right? Like, did you struggle keeping that like image for Topaz throughout the session? Because it was like, it was such a difference from when you had like initially recorded it.
Oh yeah, I had a really hard time. The director had to be like, Sam, meaner. And I was like, are you sure? And he's like, yeah. He literally was like, because we recorded her like train dialogue the same day. So we did, or rather, it was like the same like setup because we like the scripts that we had to record within a certain period of time.
Yeah.
And the train stuff was like in that same like batch of scripts basically. And he was like, Sam, you're showing up right now as Sam, who people actually like. People don't like Topaz. That needs to come across. You can be the Topaz/Sam people like when we get to the train. But right now we're not on the train. The
Express.
Shit, what are they called? The player doesn't know who you are.
Oh yeah.
And
Trailblazer.
this is the Trailblazer doesn't know who you are. The other characters don't know who you are. So you need to be like this mean. You're coming to take their. They're going to take the planet because you have a job to do and you're good at your job and you're not going to let other people get in the way of your work. And I'm like, okay, I got it. All right, we got this. And then I would like show up and like my delivery is like not there. And he's like, Sam, Mater! And I'm like, stop yelling at me!
Oh my god, you're just a girl.
I'm just a girl!
Oh my god.
But no, he definitely pushed me, which I appreciate a lot because like that's what the directors are there to do. Are to make sure that like they're turning the dials in such a way that are getting you to where they need you to be. The client is in the session also, and the client, if you start to go off character, they go, no, bring her back, or like, hey, like that's a little too much. She's not that mean. You know what I mean? So like there are a lot of different people moving a lot of different dials all at the same time to make sure that the actor is giving like the performance that reflects the character for the localized language. And so I'm sitting here and I'm like, this is not the character I auditioned for. I mean, it is, but like, I didn't know we were going this far. Like, I just show up because we don't get the scripts till we show up. Like, everything's a cold read. When we see the script, it's the first time we half of us see it half the time ever. So I show up and I go, oh, that's what we're doing today. And I'm like, what do you mean she's mean?
What?
So, like, that was fun to find out, I guess.
Yeah, wow.
But no, it was a really good challenge for me. I was still, I mean, that was me years ago when I was like, you know, as an actor, I'm always growing, but I'm not the actor I was when I first recorded Topaz. So I've learned a lot since then. And that was definitely one of those experiences that, like, you know, was like a core memory and like, okay, these are new building blocks for characters that you're going to create in the future, Sam, because this experience that you've had. So,
wow. You know, it's like really cool to hear that like the director is like super assertive, you know, like they knew what they wanted and they saw like your potential. They knew that you could get there. So they kept encouraging you, like helping you get to the level that that you had mentioned that you needed to be or something like that?
Yeah, because like as people, like we don't self-direct very well, both actors and people, right? So like that's why we're like, hey, how does this outfit look on me? We're like, hey, be honest, like, am I a good singer? You know what I mean? Like stuff that we can't judge ourselves. So that's why it's so important for a director to be honest, in my opinion, and to like work together with the talent to get them to deliver what they're looking for. Sometimes it happens on the first try. Sometimes they're reading a line and they go, damn, nailed it, next one. You know what I mean? And then sometimes we're like swimming around it forever because I'm like, you know, I'm stuck in a read, meaning that my interpretation is in a hole and I can't dig myself out of that hole. I need the director to paint me a different picture, a different scenario, pull me in a different direction. So I tell my directors, like, pull me, or I'm gonna be like, I'm gonna do something the exact opposite of what I just did, and then we're gonna find a happy medium.
Oh,
those are my dog's ears. And then we're gonna find a happy medium to make it work, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a collaborative effort between everyone in the session. And like, I love being in a booth where all the magic happens and characters come to life. And like, you know, you get to see all these like creative people and personalities like in real time create the medium that like, as a gamer, like I get to enjoy. Like, I think it is the coolest in the world.
Yeah. Would you say that you had to meet them to where they want you to be? Would you say like that's the hardest thing about voice acting?
The acting part, yes. That, I mean, like objectively, like it is voice acting.
Yeah.
Not necessarily how cool can you sound on cue. There are people who are really good at sounding really cool on cue. It takes me a couple tries, but like the acting part is when you get to pull all of your experiences and as an actor together and as a person, because there's so much like individual personal experience that people bring to the table to help bring characters to life that you don't really think of. If I'm portraying, you know, like my family is from the Philippines, if I'm portraying a Filipino character, I'm going to have a different personal experience as like, you know, someone who's like Latina. So like it would be a better fit for me to portray the character because I have more personal experience to relate to the individual to be able to like authentically bring that character to the table. That's why when people ask me for advice, like improv classes, acting classes, like not even just like online voice acting, but like acting foundations, because those are all the little tools that you pull into the booth with you. Like I had finished like a 10-week improv intensive, I think in like fall of 2022, I finished that intensive. January of 2023, I booked a game where my 3-hour session was all improv, complete improv. It was like, okay, we have like 40 different emotions. No, literally like 40 emotions. Like improv. The difference between irritated and angry and irate. And they were like, now you're going to have like 5 different sound effects for every single one. So I want you to make an irate, like 5 distinct irate sounds and like 5 distinct angry sounds, and being able to come up with all of those on the spot, because I'm able to place myself in scenarios where I'm able to react, because we're all by ourselves in the booth too. I'm playing pretend in my head by myself using skills that I learned in the classroom and got to practice with my classmates in my improv class that I just finished. It's all those little things that you just don't really think of when you think voice acting. But that's why so many voice actors come from extensive theater backgrounds and like some even on-camera backgrounds, and all those like different acting techniques come together and gives us all different perspectives and approaches to like the different kinds of medium that we get to work on. So like, you know, video games and anime, most often than not, different techniques, different acting styles. You know, like animation, like Western animation, like Nickelodeon and Disney stuff, completely different probably than like adult audiobooks, right? Like all these different styles of acting come into play, and then like crank that to hard mode because we don't get to use our faces to help deliver those performances. We have to sell them, you know, with just our voice and the acting part.
Oh my God.
So being able to portray an emotion believably to an audience when they can't see your tears and they can't see your eyebrows ruffle and they can't see your like, you know, your eyes dilate.
Can't see your frown or anything. You have to like really put it through your voice.
Exactly. And that's when like all the training just kind of boils down. And don't get me wrong, there are a lot of people who are just naturally talented and can just pull that together. And I'm like, hell yeah. But yeah, there's just, oh my God, I love it. That's why I love acting so much, because there's just so much, like, it all goes down to like, you know, like turning the dials to get exactly what the client or the director is looking for. And then you guys just kind of work together to create this product that wasn't there before, based on the experiences you as an actor have, and the director is looking for, and what the client is looking for. So it comes together, and it's like magic.
Yeah. Oh wow. It's like you literally need to just do everything and try everything and learn everything. So like when you're in a booth, you can make magic happen. That was wow. Like when you had mentioned like portraying emotions because they can't see your face, I realized like, oh wow, that sounds. That might sound easy to some people, but that sounds hard as heck to me, you know?
It's challenging, and especially when you're in the booth and we don't get visuals. So like when we're recording games, they don't have a picture of the character being like, you know, like when we're playing Honkai Star Rail, I'm gonna see Topaz be like, I can't cross my arms because my headphone cord's in the way. Like you know, I don't see that. I don't know she's doing that. Wow, so I have to make a judgment call in the booth that I don't know whether they like program those after the fact. I mean, it's probably based on the script, you know, they like they'll stage, you know, the character models however they're doing it. But like I'd have to, you know, create an interpretation and, you know, portray the character based on what she's saying and who she is and her personality and what is she likely to do. How is she going to handle the situation?
Do they tell you the action of what the character's doing? So, like, example, when you had mentioned Topaz is crossing her arms, in the script, does it say Topaz crosses her arms? Oh my God.
No.
So, like, even if you had, like, a section that you have to, like, shout or scream or something, you just don't know what the context of.
We see the lines, like, bookending them.
Yeah.
Like, it depends on the client. Some clients will be like, hey, so you're only going to get the lines and that's it. And the director will be like, okay, so you're in this scenario. Someone just said this to you. This line is the response. Or sometimes they'll just be like, bro, I don't know what's happening. Let's just go for the most generic performance. Or we'll give them a couple different options. We'll give them like, we'll deliver this line and then we'll give this line as an alternative in case the emotion is different. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so if you ever are playing a game or watching something or whatever, and it sounds like the line does not fit at all, it's probably one of those where they did not have the context, which is unfortunate. Yeah. And none of us want to be in that scenario, but the actors and the director work so hard to try and make the best possible choice, because acting is all about making choices. Oh, actually, this is kind of complicated. It's about making choices and reacting. Acting is reacting, but it's also making choices. At the end of the day, it's all make-believe. All in our head. Sometimes we get visuals, like for PVs, for example, we'll see storyboards, which, oh my God, they help so much, because otherwise I would be so out of luck. Or sometimes they'll have like scratch audio, so someone from like the animation team will like act out the script just so that we have timing. Because sometimes it's like, hey, deliver this line in like 1.6 seconds, and you have like a plus or minus 0.1 second wiggle room. So we have to get the timing right. And so they have like scratch audio so we know how long it is or where the lines are placed. So like it just depends on the technical side too, what the client provides or doesn't provide to the studio. There are only so many different ways they can do this, but I want to say like everyone's different. If I go into a studio for a game, I don't know how much material we're going to have or not have. I don't know if I'm going to have the full script or like only my lines. I don't know if I'm gonna have visuals. I don't know if it's a PV or if it's just like a scene. I don't know if it's an animatic. Luckily for a lot of games where there's combat involved, I do get to see the animations. Thank God.
Nice.
That's important.
Yeah.
Objectively, that's important because I want to give the best performance I can. Yeah. And especially with something that involves so much physicality, like I can't put myself in a physical situation that's going to match what the character is doing if I don't know what the character is doing. So whenever I'm like in a session and they're like, okay, give me like 3 sounds where you're being attacked. And I'm like, am I being attacked? How am I being attacked? Am I being like bludgeoned? Is someone hitting me with a baseball bat? Am I being stabbed? Am I being shot? Is someone like roasting me with a flamethrower? Like, am I being hit against a wall? Like, I need to know, like, if you can give me those details, I want to know. Because that's going to give me the opportunity to give the most specific performance. But, you know, if it's like generic, you know, fighting stuff, then it could be any of the above. But especially if there's a visual that's going to go with it, I'm not going to give the same I'm being attacked sound if I'm being, like slashed with a sword as if I'm being shot, in the stomach.
Yeah, it's
so,
too different.
Exactly. That's when, like, I just cross my fingers that, there's as much available material that the client can provide, but sometimes they're still working on it too, because I know that like game dev crunch is real, and sometimes we're working on stuff at the exact same time.
Wow.
Or like I'll get updated scripts while I'm recording, like, hey, we just updated this, and I'm like, oh, okay, like that's not a problem for me because my job is to be flexible. But then they're like, oh. Or they're like, hey, we just got a new PV for you to record. Here, we're going to throw it on the screen. And I'm like, okay, I'm flexible. I'm here.
Yeah.
Like they just finished it, wherever they are. So like we're all working on like a similar time crunch here. So we all do our best to give the players and the viewers like the best experience possible, especially on localized productions.
Yeah.
But even sometimes on domestic stuff, we only can use the materials that were provided. So, but sometimes clients just like don't know what they should or shouldn't provide, especially like indie clients, which is fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, everyone's different.
The audience heard it here first. If there's ever a voice line that sounds off, just know that there was a lack of visuals, because I know like, so for example, like CBT, I'm playing a game. And my chat was like, oh, the voice acting sounds a little bit off. And in my mind, I was like, oh, it's probably just because like the voice actor doesn't have like enough details, visuals to like really know what they're saying. So now that I'm hearing it from you, it just like makes a lot more sense. I just have so much respect for voice actors, especially now like you have to create everything in your head and your reaction, like the improv on the spot. To be able to like come up with different things and hope that one of them lands as an attack sound, because you just don't know what you're trying to like portray,
Sometimes like actors just don't have a director either. Sometimes it's just the engineer and the actor. And like if just know that if you're like playing a video game, the actor who is selected to portray that character is skilled. The auditions that go out, like every person who auditions for this character can play this character. Everyone is skilled. Everyone's at the point in their career where they can all do this well. It just comes down to client preference for the most part, But then once they're in the booth, it takes more than just the actor to bring the character to life. Like I mentioned, there are so many different things that come into play. Exactly, because, the actor can only do so much by themselves with the limited information that they have, and without, director guidance or without visuals or without, a client there to correct, hey, actually the character is, less snarky and more wry, or, like little things. Sometimes there are also writers in the room. So like every production is different, and every actor who is performing in these mediums, like earned their place there, and they all have the ability to do it.
Yeah.
Their performance is just a reflection of everyone in the room with them.
That's a really good insight for everyone that's like listening, because most people like me, we're like casual, so we don't really think about the voice acting industry. We just hear what's in the game and we think, oh, that's the final product. Like what? So this insight is so helpful, and I just have so much more like 100 hands down respect. That's crazy. I can never imagine me like being in the studio. Like for me, like with offline recording and scripts and stuff, I sound unnatural. It's so hard to sound natural and try to like sound like myself how I do sound on stream. And so like just the thought of voice acting in general was like, oh my god, you just explained everything perfectly. So love that for you.
Well, I'm glad.
Yeah. Now I'm even really more curious. Can we talk about Topaz? I want to hear about your experience with Anby, because when they announced you as voice actor, I kid you not, I was like, the range was crazy. Like I wouldn't even have known, So I want to know like your thoughts about Anby, finding the image, the voice for her, just all about it.
Yeah, well, I'm lucky that with this one, they had a reference. They were like, hey, so like this is the kind of voice print we're looking for. So they had a reference, which was good, somewhere to start.
Yeah.
And sometimes they do that in auditions where they're like, hey, so here are some characters who sound similar to what we're going for. They're like, we don't want this character. We just want something along these lines. And a lot of auditions do that. Commercial does that. Video games do that. Like animation does that. They're like, hey, we're looking for this kind of a person. And they'll send you, like cultural icons or other characters from other games or like a YouTube link and say, hey, watch this. Like, this is kind of what we're going for. So I had a reference for Anby, which was good. And like, it was a voice print I had not yet auditioned on because I didn't realize I could do it.
Oh.
Because I auditioned for Anby relatively early in my career, and I got that audition without my agent. Same with Topaz. I got those by connecting directly with the studios. Like I mentioned earlier, you get auditions from your agents, you get them from casting directors, you get them from studios. I got those auditions directly from a studio and a casting director, respectively. So, I just kind of like got those on my own, and they were like, hey, so we're looking like, here's the character, here's like the spec sheet. So like, she's like, here's her age range, this is what she does. She's, a girl with no past, I think was basically the only description I got for her. I got the spec sheet, I got the reference, and I was like, okay. And I was like, playing around with like my vocal print, and I was like, let's throw a bunch of air into it and like pull the pitch up a little bit. And like, and then when I'm like in session, they're like, give me more air, like higher, and they're like adjusting the pitch. So that's why like when you play games that have been going on for a long time, you might notice the first time you hear the character might sound different from what they sound like now. And that can be for so many reasons. Like the client decides, hey, so the character is moving in a direction that's different than what we originally thought, so we're going to make some adjustments. Because the writers, I'm sure they have some sort of like an outline of where they want the story to go.
Yeah.
But as far as a lot of the characters go, dude, I don't know how thorough they are in those. So like, I go in and they have my audition lines, and I'm like, characters like Anby are so incredibly difficult because, there's only so much emotion you're allowed to portray with them. But, that's just who they are as a person. So you basically take the emotional range and the experience of a normal person and you shrink it. So she's not emotionless, just her range is so much smaller than the average person. So my area, my playground just got so much smaller.
Yeah.
Because I'm a very emotive person when I speak, and like I have a lilt, so when I talk, like my voice gets a little like musical, and I get very expressive, which is the exact opposite of who Anby was. So I was like, shit, bro, like I don't have this in the bag.
No.
So I was actually I was referred the audition, and they apparently they had been like looking for her for a while. I don't know how long. I just remember hearing from someone the audition went out, and I was like, oh, interesting. And then like a while later, they were like, hey, the audition's still out. And I'm like, what do you mean? Like these usually wrap in like a week. Like that's weird. And they were like, I'm gonna refer you, and I was like, okay. So they referred me. I got the audition the next day. It was due the day after that. So it was a really tight turnaround. And I was like, oh, shit. Okay. So I listened to the reference. I read the character bio. I like looked at her and I was like, okay. And I don't think I knew what the game was at the time, but I like was like, all right, whatever. Because there are so many games that like look the same when we first get them, because either they're in like, early development, pre-development. Sometimes they're in a beta. Sometimes like they haven't even been announced at all. Yeah. Like localized or like domestic games. So I'm just kind of like, whatever. So I submitted, and I was like, all right, it is what it is. And then I got a call back on a Zoom call with a bunch of people, and I was like, So I went in, I had my callback audition with the director. The director directed me, and we got like some combat stuff. We did the audition lines another time, except this time the client was there to give input, because the client, like I mentioned earlier, is like, hey, well, actually they're more like this. Can we hear this? And so they wanted to hear as close to Anby as possible, or what their vision of Anby at the time was. Yeah. So we did that. I was like, all right, cool. And like I knew this director, not personally, but like I knew them, like we had talked before. So afterwards I was like, sent him a message like, hey, it was really good to see you. I didn't know you were working on this game. Appreciate your time, like fingers crossed. And then later he was like, hey, actually they want another callback with you. Like, are you available like next week? And I was like, I'm not available next week, actually. Not Slade. I was like, I'm slammed. One of those like, oh, I'm slammed on Tuesday, like Friday sucks for me. And he was like, okay, all right, well, I can't remember whether, this was so long ago, I don't remember whether I recorded something on my own time and sent it back, or if they were like, we'll just listen to this one again. I don't know how many other people were reading for this character. I have no idea, but Anby was the only one that I read for. I know that Coco, Belle's voice actor, also read for Anby.
Oh.
I don't remember whether or not she got a call back, but afterwards I was like, all right, well, we'll see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember this when this happened because the day that I booked, it was like 3 weeks later, and I was on the way to the airport. I was going to Orlando, Florida to help my friend table at Holmont, and she's an artist. It's like 40 minutes away. So I hopped in the car, my husband took me, and we're about to get on the on-ramp to get onto the airport, like main airport road.
Yeah.
And then I was like, I had a really bad feeling. I went, wait a second. Hey, let me look for my ID really quick. And I opened my purse.
Oh my gosh.
No ID. I opened my book bag. No ID.
Oh my
and I was
gosh.
like, pull over. I opened my suitcase. No ID. And I was like, my keys aren't even in here. And I was like, oh, I'm so cooked. We took his car. Normally we take my car. We took his car this time.
Uh-huh.
And so I was like, I looked at him and I was like, Jamie, we need to go home. I left my keys and my ID at home. And he was like, what? I was like, we gotta go home. And like the flight was in like an hour and a half because I don't get to the airport 2 hours early, but I get there like relatively early.
I do it too.
So we take the 40 minutes back home.
Wow.
I grab my keys and another 40 minutes back.
The stress.
I have like 10 minutes to get to
Yeah.
my gate. So I hop out of the car. Actually, back up because I missed the most important part. Right after we went to, we were like right before we got on the on-ramp, and we're at the light taking a U-turn. We took a U-turn, and I'm like about to cry. I'm so stressed out. I'm like, I'm gonna miss my flight. I'm texting my friend like, I'm a big dumb. I think I might miss my flight. And as I'm texting her, I get the email notification come down, and it's like you know, like character's name, something from the studio, and it's like a reply, and I'm like, huh? And the you know, they give you like the preview, the first 2 lines of the email, and it's like, you know, you're receiving this because recently you auditioned for this character, and it wasn't even good news first. It was like, you're receiving this email because, and I'm like, oh, that can't be good. I was like, well, there's my rejection, which is weird because we never get rejections in this industry. It's just easier for them to just not reply. I don't blame them. Time is money. We take the U-turn, and I go, what is this? And I open the email, and it says, congratulations, you've booked the role of Anby.
Yay.
And I'm like, huh? I look at my husband, and I go, I know we're really stressed out right now, but I think I just booked the biggest game of my career. And he was like, what? And I was like, I just booked this character, and I think I know what game it is, but I'm not positive, and I think I'm gonna throw up.
Dude, wow, the emotions from the stress of missing your flight and then seeing the email.
Literally. Oh my God, it was insane. But I did make the flight. I hopped out of the car. I got to the terminal. Thank God it was one of those, like, gate is right there. I literally, like, grabbed my suitcase, kissed my husband, ran into the airport, cut the entire security line. I was, like, crying, like, please let me in. I need to go. I'm going to miss my flight. And I run through security, and I run to my gate. And as I get to the gate agent to scan my boarding pass, they're, like, you know, like, taking the line barricade down, and they're, like, taking the doorstop out of the door, about to close the door. I go, no. And they're like, oh, thank God, okay, you're here. And they've apparently been calling my name in the intercom, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm here. And I run in, I sit down, and I'm like, I taste blood. Like, I taste iron. You know when you run too hard? Hold on a second. Hi, Jamie. I'm talking about the story of when I booked Anby, when you took me to the airport, and we were all having a bad time.
I heard my name earlier.
Oh, yeah, I know.
I'm just perplexed by the whole iron in mouth because you ran too hard.
You've never had that? Where you run so hard that you, like, feel like you taste blood?
No.
What? Have you done that?
I have that.
Okay,
Yeah,
Ruby's done it.
Yeah, at least I'm with you on this.
So you're just a superhuman.
Yeah.
Imagine that.
I wonder what the phenomenon is for that. You run and then you taste like iron, like blood.
Our lungs are crying, probably. Okay, bye, Jamie. Have fun. Okay, sorry. I don't want to ignore my husband when he's in here.
Yeah, of course. He can have
anyway.
a feature, you know. I couldn't hear it because of Discord, but then maybe in your recording, my editor can just write the subtitles.
The subtitles?
Yeah.
True. But yeah, oh my God, it was just so much emotion. It was just like, honestly, Andy is literally the most difficult character I'd ever had to play. And whenever I'd have gaps of time between my sessions, like, you know, like a month at a time, I would get back in there and be like, I gotta relearn how to ride this bike. So I credit my director heavily on guiding me through this character, because I feel like characters like Andy, there's a very thin line between this character is really annoying and like, oh, okay, this works.
Yeah.
And I was like, I need to be really, really careful with this character because either people are going to absolutely hate her or they're not going to think about it because you don't really always think about when things go well. You just know your brain doesn't go, oh, this is really good.
Yeah.
Your brain just goes, okay, this is a character. But if it's bad, it goes, what the hell? What is this? This is annoying.
Yeah.
Right? So I was like, I need to be really careful with this. There were just so many instances where he's like, Sam, you're getting dangerously close to sounding like Siri. And I'm like, oh, okay, let me roll it back. You know, like, oh my God.
She's like a robot, you know, so you encapsulate that pretty well. I do remember when, I don't remember if it's like closed beta, the second one, or like when Anby, or like when the game officially first came out. But I do remember a lot of people, including me, we were like, oh, wow, Anby feels like emotionless. But then she's like funny. She's like quirky. You know, she has these comments that she makes here and there. But then in general, like she has no emotions. And she likes hamburgers. So like eventually over time, as the story progresses, it's like, oh, wow, like Anby's a really like, she's a silly girl, you know? Because like at first, like no one just knew what she was like. And all I remember was like, oh, she's just really emotionless. She sounds like she's bored. And then now we have 5-star Anby coming soon. So I'm really, I'm so
excited.
Yeah, I was like, I want to ask you, but obviously, you know, this 5-star Anby is still a few, maybe one banner, one patch away. So yeah, I'm dying to know, and I'm dying to see.
They don't tell me.
I'm dying to see her progression in the story, especially because she's the first 4-star to become a 5-star in Zenless.
I will say I was as surprised as everyone else because I mean we show up for work and then we find out what we're doing that day when we get to work. I was just as surprised, and I was surprised for the second time when the drip marketing came out because I didn't know that was coming out.
Oh wow!
I like woke up, you know, when you like half wake up early in the morning and you check your phone and roll back over. Yeah. It was one of those, except I half woke up in the morning, checked my phone, and my phone was on fire because everyone was messaging me and tagging me and texting me. I was like, hello, what the? And I was like, oh, that's today? Oh no. Like, I had no idea.
Yeah, dude,
It was crazy.
I freaked out. I remember I had ended stream and then I was chilling, check my phone. Wait, what? Anby? And I text you right away, and then I see everyone tagging you and like, Sam, what is this? It was crazy.
I'm very, very excited for her, and I'm very excited to, you know, because we only see so much in our sessions, so I'm going to be getting to know her, like, in context while you guys are as well.
Yeah.
So, because I show up, I read the lines, I feel like I get in there, and especially with Anby, like, I'm one of those people, I don't want to say I'm Anchorman where I will read exactly as it's written and then forget about it immediately. But like, I will read my lines and then forget what I just read. I literally had this moment recently where the director and the director and the engineer were like, did we already record that one? And we're just like, hold on a second. Did we? Which line are we on? I don't remember. And they're like, Sam, you're the one who just said it. And I was like, yeah, but like, I don't remember. You think I remember what I say? I say a lot of things. Like,
that's me, but like, I don't even do voice acting.
So it was one of those moments, but like it's gonna be a lot of fun. But with Anby specifically, I feel like everything that I say is like, I feel like things kind of go from her brain to her mouth, like receipt paper. If you've ever been a server and you like a restaurant server, or if you ever like have played with a receipt machine and you just hold down the button where the paper comes out and it just goes like zzz, and it just keeps going. Like there's like no thought, head empty, just empty paper coming out.
Yeah.
I feel like that's Anby when she talks. She just doesn't think, she just goes.
Oh.
So a lot of my delivery with her is just cold reading and seeing where the sentence goes. I don't want to say as method as I can get it because that's technically not really method acting, but like that's like a technique that I use with her just to make it sound very, I don't know where the sentence is going, but I'm gonna open my mouth and we'll see what journey it takes. So I'm like, that's how I think Anby talks.
Yeah.
I love the writers. The writers did a great job with her and everyone. I don't know how many times recording I go, damn, the script is fire. Oh, this is so good.
That's awesome. Wow, I'm excited then to see what future Anby's like.
Me too.
Sure.
I'm so excited.
Wait, so aside from Anby and Topaz, this is actually more for like overall like voice acting. I actually wanted to know what the funniest voice line you had to do that caught you off guard the most.
Damn, I can't tell you yet.
Oh, you can't tell. Oh,
I remember getting one. It was so insanely out of context. What was it? I had to think of something else then.
oh no. Yeah, I was like, for streamers, like, we'll have moments where like stuff really catches us off guard, but they're like scenarios, you know? I just want to know like which character. Okay, then what about like a character that you had voice? Which one is like the craziest line that like you have to say that like kind of sticks with you to this day just because it's like funny, you know, it's hilarious?
I never remember lines specifically. I you not, when I started doing conventions and people, you know, I was like signing stuff, people want like, you know, quotes on their shit.
Like,
the way that they don't have an archive of all of Anby's lines somewhere pisses me off because I don't remember what she says. Like, I don't know. They're like, oh, can you write a quote? I'm like, what does Anby say? I don't know. Like, I can't, because you know, with the other games, like with Genshin and Star Rail, you can just look it up and it's got all the quotes there.
Yeah.
Nope, Zenless doesn't have that.
That's so funny because like you had just mentioned that like when you're recording, you just don't remember what line you said, and then I asked you a question if there's the funniest line ever, something that like stuck to your heart, you know.
There are some zingers that do stick. I know there was one that just really cracked me up when Anby switches out with Nekomata in battle. I think she calls Nekomata kitty cat, which is so funny.
Oh,
it is the funniest thing. You go from Anby to Nekomata, and then she goes like go kitty cat or something, or or I don't know, because she's like she like teases Nekomata because they're not like besties. They're kind of like, you know, like feuding siblings is probably the best way I can describe their type of banter.
Yeah,
I will say the exchange that like got me the most. And like Alice Hamora and I quote this like when we're together on the regular. It's when Nekomata first meets the Cunning Hares and she's like, you know, kind of hanging around them and like, you know, she's like meeting Nicole and everyone. And then she's like going through people's stuff and then she pulls out a wallet and she opens it and she goes, oh, there's a picture of Nicole in this wallet. And then Anby goes, that's my wallet. And she's like the most emotive you will ever hear her in the entire game up until then. And she just very aggressively just goes, that's my wallet, you know, but like in Anby. And it was funny because that delivery that I did was a combination of, wait, that is so funny. Like, I don't really know how this is going to come out of my mouth, but also I need to keep it dialed down, you know, for Anby. I don't know how many times I'm in a session and they're like, okay, so this is what's happening. This happened, this happened, this happened. Something really dramatic just happened. And this is her response. But you know, like how Anby would do it, you know, but like asterisk how Anby would do it is like the like, by the way, it's like the condition for so many lines because, you know, if this happened to literally anyone else, then their emotions would be heightened. But like Anby's heightened emotion does not look like everyone else's. So like in that moment, her like, that's my wallet line was like borderline breaking character. But according to like the client in the session and like obviously like the writers and whoever like in QA pushed that line to approval, decided like, yep, this was the moment that's okay to like almost break character for Anby was when someone steals her wallet, finds a picture of Nicole and is like, hey, who's this?
Oh my god, that's so cute.
That was really funny.
That was like the very beginning too. That's so cute.
I recorded that a long time ago, but I do remember that one.
Yeah, and then especially because you mentioned like Alice, you know, you guys talk and whatnot, like just casual exchanging voice lines, you know, that one core memory. No, that's so cute. So along with like voice acting, I actually wanted to ask like what type of feeling or emotion is the hardest to voice act?
It's funny because it's two that I have done. Like the hardest that I have done. One is Anby's stoicism, like being able to portray emotions with a very small like room of like wiggle room for emotion portrayal, but also being extremely firm and like, I don't want to say hostile, but like hostile without being angry, which is Topaz, like in that one scene. And to this day, like that one is still probably one of my hardest because like, you know, as someone who doesn't get angry very often, like a lot of people will tap into personal experiences and moments in their life and kind of like the actors call it like their toolbox of emotions. So like there's a running joke that like, oh, something really traumatic just happened to me and I'm like really, really upset. And this is like, unfortunately, a core memory that's going to be stored forever. Like, oh, haha, well, it's just another emotion for my actor's toolbox. So that when I'm in a position where it's like, oh, you know, if a relative dies, like, oh, well, your character's dad dies. Oh, great. Let me just remember that time my dad died. And I'll just step back into that scene in my head again and pretend my dad is dying all over again. I have to relive that. My dad is alive, by the way. But, you know, like one of those situations where you tap into real life experiences and kind of like call upon those emotions that you felt in real life so that you can portray those emotions as the character as realistically as possible. I don't get very not angry, but firm, but hostile. I can't even put a word on what that emotion is because I don't experience it really.
Yeah, I don't get angry. When I get angry, I start to cry because I just can't like get angry.
I get spicy. I bypass angry and I just go straight like Filipino Hulk. I see red and then I just get really like, I don't know, like punchy, attacky. I don't like who I am when I get all like really spicy mean. Like, 'cause then, I don't know, it gets personal. I don't like doing that.
I don't like getting upset.
My threshold is extremely high. Like, it takes a lot to get me to that point, but you know, like we're all human and we all get very. But anyway, like that particular emotion is really hard for me to portray because I have to portray what I think that looks like because I don't have that one in my toolbox. And every time something happens where I could personally end up in that situation, I don't immediately think, okay, I need to store this for later. But it's one of those like, you know, when people are like, oh, so like, for example, when commercials are like, oh, you know, like you're talking to your best friend. I'm like, when I talk to my best friend, we get really casual and I'm like, what's up? You know, like, I can't, y'all don't want that in your commercial. Like, anyway, all that to say, like, that specific fine line of I'm being firm, but there's a little bit of red in my eyes, but I'm not angry, but I'm in control is very difficult for me. So I want to say that is definitely the hardest one for me to portray, like, believably. Because I mean, believably that's up to the interpretation of the watcher, the listener, the player, whoever. But like, yeah, that's when I like really rely on my director and hope that, you know, they can give me directions that can get me there. Whether that means they're telling me, I want you to pretend like someone is yelling at your mom, you know, like one situation that can get me there that like I still kind of have a hard time getting there too because it gets me over the angry line and I'm trying not to be angry. I have to be right before I get angry is like I was in an acting class and the person was like, what gets you there? What is your I will cut a moment? And I was like, my mom is from the Philippines and she moved here in her like mid to late 20s and English is like her third language and she worked fast food for a long time. So I will cut a if someone starts talking down to my mother as if she's dumb, can't speak English, like doesn't belong here. You know, like, you know, people with immigrant parents can relate to that because we get very defensive over, you know, our parents who like risk everything to come here so that their family can have an experience that like they didn't have, right?
100%.
So when I'm like, damn, I need to get there, I think about someone talking down to my mom at the cash register, and then I'm like, okay, peel it back, Sam, not that bad. You know, because then otherwise I'm going to start seeing red. I'm going to start talking really fast. I'm going to start getting really angry. I'm going to start calling someone a you know, but like, I can't get there.
Yeah, because the character can't say that.
I can't get there. We need to get close to that.
So that's, oh, wow. Like managing that level is like tough, you know, because you have to like really like lock in to get there, but then it's like, oh, stop, like don't get there. Yeah, because as an actor, what I want to deliver is like the emotion that you hear the character portraying is what I, Sam Slade, am feeling right now in the booth, and that will give the most authentic performance, the most damn, these aren't characters, these are people performances. This is the I forgot I'm playing a video game performance. Like, it feels like I'm watching like TV, or like these are like actual people having these experiences. And it's all about like, to me, like I keep saying the word experience because that's what's the most important thing to me while I'm playing. It's like the experience as I, as an actor, have, you know, lived through to be able to bring a character to life because the character's experienced something, and then the player is going to experience all of that. So because we play these games for a reason, and it is like for the experience. Yeah, my dog is about to knock over with his tail. Hello, buddy.
Hello, buddy.
I'm saying as if like your dog can hear me.
But yeah, that is
Oh.
probably like the hardest thing
Wow.
for me to perform.
Whoa, yeah. Is there a character aside from Topaz that has like the emotion of anger? For example, like maybe Laween from Shinova. Like, did you have to sound angry for that?
No, she's just very like determined. Laween is very determined. She's very like she has an agenda. She's like, driven because she if I remember correctly, she like defected or something. So
Oh.
like she's doing this because she believes this is for the greater good.
Oh,
Is how she is when she does everything that she does. So I would say probably the closest thing would probably be Baldur in Fire Emblem Heroes, just because like, from what we've seen in her animatics also, she doesn't look angry. She's just very powerful and very assured and very cocky. And she knows her power and she knows what she can do. And people in power don't need to raise their voice
Yeah.
if they know they're in power. So it's being able to like portray that realistically that can get difficult for me personally, just because of how I am as a person, because everyone's different. Like every actor has like areas that they can continue to grow in. We're all learning, we're always training, we're always, trying to become a better actor, adding more shit to our toolbox,
You're
taking
constantly
more
learning.
classes.
Yeah.
Exactly. We're always learning. And I'm very grateful that clients are trusting me and my current ability to portray their characters. I'm just glad that what I'm able to deliver is meeting their expectations, or they, trust me enough, because I'm sitting here like, yeah, I can totally grow on this a little more.
Yeah, I mean, there's like a saying that like there's always room for improvement, and as long as like you yourself, you're trying like if the next day is better than yesterday, that is like the goal,
Exactly. And that's what I tell people all the time. My husband and I teach a high school, like a drumline, like locally.
Oh, yeah. That's
And
cool.
whenever I'm like coaching my kids or like, giving them direction, I'm like, hey guys, this next rep, I want you to pick one thing and fix it. You don't need to fix everything. I know you messed up. Pick the one thing that you messed up and fix that one thing. Because even if you do the next rep and you only fixed one thing, that's one thing better that you did this rep than you didn't do last rep. I'm not asking you to get everything right the next time around. I'm asking you to fix one thing and keep that fixed, because over time, with practice, you will get to where you want to be and where you need to be. But until you start making strides and learning and adapting and correcting our mistakes one at a time, and then keeping those and then practicing the corrected version over and over, and it just kind of like builds on each other.
Yeah.
That is how we learn, and that is how we adapt, and that's how we fix things. So like, exactly. Like if we woke up today and it's better than yesterday, then like that's all we could ask for.
Yeah, no, it's actually funny that you mentioned drumline, because my brother was actually in drumline, and I wasn't in band, but I did color guard. So I understand like what it's like to do drills and stuff. My director called it like emotional intelligence, because like obviously like we're all students, we're gonna mess up, but then if you just like take one thing and improve on it, like you can keep growing. So yeah, when you mentioned drumline, I was like, oh wait, like oh my god, I love this stuff, because like it was a big part of our like high school years, and then some people take it to college and stuff. I'm actually curious, aside from voice acting, like what other hobbies do you have, Sam?
I mean, like I just mentioned, my husband and I coach high school drum lines. In the winter, we do indoor drum lines and WGI, and in the fall we do marching band with the kids.
Even now, like right now. Oh, for how long? How long has it been going on for?
Well, this season, tomorrow is actually our first show. So tomorrow we have our first competition of the season. And that'll go until late March. So the season starts rehearsing, I think, in like October, November. And then performances go from like February through March, sometimes April, depending on the year. Because we did the same activity when we were in college. We performed at an independent level and not a scholastic level. And then in the fall, band camp starts in August, and then like the last performance is either like late October, early November. It just depends on where the football season lands and where the competition schedule takes us. So like a good chunk of our year, but like we love doing it. And it's funny that I've kind of ended up where I have in my life, because when I was going to college, or when I was preparing for college, I really, really, really wanted to go to school for percussion performance. I had fallen in love with percussion. I didn't join band until high school. My middle school band director didn't let me join band in the 7th grade because he was like, you didn't do band in the 6th grade, so you can't do band in the 7th grade. So I joined chorus, and I was like, that's weird. I've been playing piano since I was like 4 years old. I can read music. Like, put me on literally any instrument, my dude. Like, I would have been perfect for percussion, mallet percussion. I could read all the music. So come high school, my friends like, hey, come to band camp, learn this instrument. And then I learned essentially giant piano. Like, I played marimba, I played mallet instruments. And
That's
then
my brother.
yeah,
We had a marimba at home. Oh my god, no, it's funny because like when he practiced at home, it was just so like annoying. I was like, please stop. I'm trying to do homework. Like, stop playing drums for once. But yeah, no, that's awesome.
Yes. And then I then I started like learning the other percussion instruments because there were so many. And I was like, I want to go to school for music. I'm going to be a performing arts person. I'm going to go and make a career in the performing arts. And then I knew it was going to be really competitive, and I knew I was good, but I was like, I don't think I'm cream of the crop, make a living out of this good. And I was talking to my band director, who was also a percussionist, and I was like, hey, can you give me an audition piece for the School of Performing Arts for this university I'm going to audition for? And I had just been working with my my private instructor, and he was like, oh, I can totally connect you with people over at the university. I know the people, like they I'll talk you up. And later he was like, oh, they definitely want you. They want, because like he's a really well-known percussionist in the area and has connections. And he's like, yeah, like because you're my student, they like, they understand what your skill level is, and like they're interested, like just go audition to make it official. And I was like, hell yeah. Talking to my high school band director, and he goes,
Cutie. Okay.
my dog's ears. And he goes like, you don't want this. And I was like, what? And he was like, if you go down this path, you're going to resent it. And he was like, take it from me. And I was like, what? And I was like, this man really just told me he hates his life and his job because he ended up making a career out of something that he loved, and now he's no longer happy. And I was like, ooh. And the moment I realized, like, oh, like I heard him, and I didn't instantly go, no, like that's bullshit. If my instinct had been, no, that's bullshit, I would have probably still pursued it. But because I heard him and went and took into consideration, I was like, this takes a special kind of person. And if I'm second guessing it, it's not for me. And that's when I decided to go to business school instead. But look at where we are now. Yeah. I'm an actor.
You're like taking on all these side quests that you're just adding to your pile. So now like you have like you know business, you know like drumline music, and now you do voice acting. Like who knows what's next?
Oh my God, that's literally a running joke that I have too many jobs like in my family, my friend group. My husband laughs at me. And when I got my master's degree, I still keep in touch with my college band director because he's amazing. He wrote my recommendation for grad school. And he was like, so Sam, when are you getting your doctorate? And I was like, I'm not getting my doctorate. And he was like, you said the same thing about your master's.
Oh my
and I was
gosh.
like, I'm not getting my doctorate, not getting my doctorate.
Oh my gosh. You're just taking on side quests at this point. But that's awesome.
I like staying busy.
You know, I see life as like a character creation. However you treat life, it builds character, so you get like I guess I see it like D&D almost, like increase in intelligence. You learn something new. So like for me, I want to like read more, read more books, do more puzzles, because I haven't done puzzles in like a long time. Like the other day, I looked at a crossword puzzle book and I was like, oh shoot, like this is nostalgic. It's not the same like yours. You're actually like going to school, business, degrees, but I'm out here like, oh, there's just stuff I haven't done in a long time.
No, stop.
Oh,
Everyone's different.
Oh yeah, and then learning a new language. I think that's what I want to do.
Hell yeah. Dude, I don't know how many times I've tried learning Tagalog. Like I've like started and stopped on Rosetta Stone so many times because my college had it for free. And then I bought like a lifetime subscription for like $100 one Black Friday. I still have it, but I've like started it and then stopped using it, and then started it again and then stopped using it. It's got to the point where all of lesson 1, I can do it now. And like I can still understand a bunch of stuff, and like my mom can talk to me and I'll get like 80% of it, or like just standard everyday conversation. But like learning a language is hard, dude.
Yeah, it's so much easier when you're younger, because obviously like your brain is growing, but for some reason as an adult it's just so much harder. Because that's me with Vietnamese. Like I'm able to read a little bit, write, understand, but like speaking, oh my god, I feel like I have no knowledge suddenly.
brain is just buffering the entire time. And I know the optimal way to learn the language is to just learn it, don't translate it in your head, but I'm stuck in the translating in my head phase. My middle school Spanish teacher taught Arabic at the local community college, and he was like, hey, people should take Arabic with me at the community college in high school for college credit. So I was like, okay. So I took 2 semesters of Arabic when I was in high school at the local community college. I got 10 college credits, which was amazing. But the way he taught was, this is it. It's like, oh, what does this mean? And he's like, it means this. And I'm like, but what does it mean in English? Don't do that.
Oh
and I'm
my
like,
gosh.
okay. And like, instead of, translating word for word, he'll be like, this is, he'll say something and then he'll explain the sentence instead of saying what this is, like word for word. So we don't have the translation game going on in our head. It's like, just learn the language, right? Like through association. Because Rosetta Stone just kind of like shows you pictures and then says the word, and then pictures and then the word, and then pictures and then the sentence, and pictures and then the sentence, and then tells you a sentence and asks you to respond with a sentence that you learned by watching a picture. So there's like, if you're learning from one language on Rosetta Stone, there are no words of your native tongue at all in the lesson. It's all the language you're learning. And that's how he taught. And I'm like, that's hard as shit.
Wow. There's another way that people say to learn is to watch stuff in that language. So like if you're learning Japanese, you watch anime, and you do have to rely on subtitles, but eventually like the more you watch anime, you're able to pick up these words and like remember like what it means and stuff. So yeah, that's another thing. But
yeah, dude.
Yeah. Aside from like hobbies, learning, I actually wanted to ask you about gaming, Sam. Like, what was your first ever gacha game? Because now that you're voice actors for these gacha games, I want to know what your first ever gacha game was.
I don't remember what it's called. I was playing it back in like 2012, and it was a mobile game.
Yeah, describe it because then maybe the audience can know. I'm gonna search it up too.
Yeah. It was on iOS, was it? No, yeah, it was on iOS. I was playing it on an iPad, on an iPod Touch.
Wow.
Trust me, I've tried looking it up. I cannot remember what it was. It was, each character had 3 forms that I think if you pulled duplicates, it would go up a form. I don't know if it was that or if it would do it through battling, but there was a pull mechanic. I did not spend money. I was like, I was a teenager. I was like, I'm not putting my credit card in this thing because the internet's evil and they'll take your information back in those days. But I genuinely do not remember what the game is called. And it kills me. I want to say there's a dragon in it, but I don't remember, dude. I don't remember.
It's funny because around that time, I played a game called Puzzles and Dragons. It's like Candy Crush, though.
Oh! No, it's not that one. I want to say, though, my first my first gacha game that I played that I knew was a gacha game that I can remember was Fire Emblem Heroes, because I was in my big Fire Emblem kick during the pandemic. I put like 500 hours into 3 houses, and then I played Awakening, and then I played Shadows of Valentia, and then I played both Fates games, and then I went back and downloaded Shadow Dragon and like Sacred Stones and a bunch of other games. I ended up not finishing like the last 2, but I didn't get very far actually, now that I think about it. But I was in like a huge Fire Emblem kick, and I was like, what do you mean there's a mobile game? I was so excited. So I started playing it, played the shit out of it. It was back in like mid 2020, I want to say. So one, being in the game now is like,
yeah.
But also like, like I was there like, I don't want to say super early on. I think it was maybe like book 2 or book 3 when I had started playing. I don't remember. But yeah, like that was my first gacha game that I can like remember actively playing.
Oh, dang. That would have been like crazy, like dream come true for me. You playing game and then suddenly now you're voice acting. Like, what?
Yeah, dude. Imagine me when I was playing Genshin Impact right before I started voice acting, and now I'm like a bunch of little dudes running around. And I don't even remember what all their names are. I'm not gonna lie, but yeah, I'm a bunch of NPCs in Genshin.
Wait, do you voice act NPCs in Genshin or?
Yeah.
Wait, are you able to tell me which one, or like, do you remember which one?
If I can remember, I know the one in the prison in Meripede. In Fontaine.
Wow.
One of the prison girls. One of them in Baiju's story quest. Jianli. But she's the scientist that Baiju went to school with, if I remember that correctly. I recorded that a
Oh,
long
is
time
she
ago.
Cloud Retainer?
No.
You know what? I feel bad because
Um,
I haven't played Genshin in a fat minute, so I might hear like,
That's okay. I played for like 2.5 years, no lifed it, put so much of my own money into it, and then
yeah,
like just stopped playing one
wait.
day, and now I'm like choice paralysis when I get on.
It's funny because actually back in November 2020 when Genshin first released, I also played Genshin too, right? But then that
Uh-huh.
was before I became a streamer. And then
Mhm.
like a couple months, January, then I started playing Genshin on stream. And
Uh-huh.
so yeah, it's like instead of voice acting for me, it's like a creator. So when you mentioned Genshin, I'm like, oh, funny,
Oh.
it's a parallel.
Yeah, that brings back warm
Yeah.
memories of like just like sitting at home playing with and that was like my
Yeah.
first like Discord community that I was part of too.
Aw.
It was like I found all these friends who I'm like still in touch with in like a Fire Emblem fan server. And we were all just playing Genshin together, and I was like, I think I'm gonna start voice acting, and like it all like
Mm.
started there.
For all the characters that you voice acted, do any of them have like certain accents that you had to like, like a British accent? I don't know, any accent?
I don't think I've booked any accented characters. I definitely read for them, but I mean,
Mm.
like, that just means either someone else did it better or I need to work on my accent game. But I'm definitely more comfortable
Mm-hmm.
without accents, like
Oh,
various vocal ranges, and
yeah.
what are they called? Like speech isms, but like
Mm-hmm.
everyone's like some shade of general
Yeah.
American.
Yes, yeah. So aside from like actual voice actors with their natural accents, I've always wondered if people who don't have like that natural, like for example, British accents, if they like
Hmm.
put on that accent, the entire time. I was always curious, and if you had
Yeah.
that experience.
It depends. Yeah. I mean, like a lot of us are trained in different accents. Like
Mm.
I will say accents are not my strong suit. I'm like trained in a couple of them, but I have to like listen to it for a couple of minutes first. I can't. Some people can just like jump straight into an accent and it
Yeah,
sounds good.
yeah.
I cannot do that. I need to like listen to it for a minute or listen or at least get like, oh well like, with this accent, your vowels are rounded and like your A's are flat. I don't know, whatever, however they describe those. And then I go, okay, and I listen to it and then I can jump in. That's fine. So if I go into a session and I like, if I were to go into a session and I know that I'm going to be doing an accent, then I'm going to like listen to a couple minutes of the accent beforehand before I get in the session.
Ooh.
But just because if I'm going to do an accent, especially if it's an accent for like a real language,
Yeah.
like stuff like transatlantic or like generic
Oh.
fantasy
Yeah.
accents, that's one thing. But like
Yeah.
if I'm doing like a British RP accent or like a
Uh-huh.
Filipino accent or something, I want it to sound as natural as
Like
possible. I don't want to
authentic.
sound
Yeah.
like an actor who's putting it on.
Mhm.
That's why
Yeah. That's tough.
I'm not super comfortable. I know a lot of actors who are Asian like know a bunch of Asian accents. And I don't
Mhm.
think there's anything wrong with that because like Asian actors like would probably be the most like
Mhm.
appropriate people to be able to put on an Asian accent for these characters. But like I still kind of feel a little like I'm not super comfortable doing a Chinese accent, like I'll
Yeah.
let someone else do it, like
Mhm.
that's not my strong suit and like
Yeah.
not my most comfortable
Yeah.
like cup of tea. So I'll let someone else do that. You know what I mean? But otherwise, like we have a lot of things in our on our tool belt that we, train for, learn, whatever. Just some people are better than others at it, and I'm totally fine with saying that my accent work isn't like my strongest. I can
Yeah.
do it. That's
Mhm.
fine.
Yeah.
Especially if someone's like, "Hey, yo, I got a bunch of NPC voices. Can you give me some characters?" And I'm like, "Yeah, and I can. My vocal range only stretches so far, but you throw an RP accent on it, and then you get like 6 new characters when you mix the accent with the vocal range. So,
Actually, speaking of vocal range, because I wanted to ask this earlier, like,
mhm.
how did you find out where your vocal range is? Like, you mentioned, like, you're super expressive, but then with Anby, it's like very, like, so how did you
Yeah.
like discover your vocal range?
That was something I really struggled with at first because I would hear other
Ah,
actors and be like, "Oh my god, I don't have a range. My range isn't very good." And then someone was like, "Sam, the acting is the important part. The range will come later. It is
oh, acting
a
first.
muscle that you
Oh,
train." And also in general, when I audition for characters, the vocal print, the voice is usually not the first thing I even think of. I use the voice to kind of place the age range, but otherwise, like, I don't really think about the voice. It just kind
ooh,
of
it just comes naturally.
happens.
Wow.
Yeah. you know, if I'm like, okay, this woman is like in her mid-30s and she's a housewife and she's, you know, like really she grew up in like a war-ridden town outside of this big city, and she met her husband who's a banker, and they live in this fantasy world, and she has 2 kids, but like one of them died. You know, like create this really long backstory for a character that doesn't really exist. And then I go, okay, like what would she sound like? You know, and I just kind of like go, okay, this is her. Just kind of like place it down and go, okay, now we get to work, you know, with like playing the character. I don't really think of vocal placement like first off. Some people do, and they kind of craft everything around that. Vocal placement is one of like the last things I consider. I look at the character first and then age, and then just kind of like place it from there, and then decide, you know, based on who the character is, like, do they have like a little bit of a lisp? Do they like draw their, you know, are they airy? Are they less airy? Or do they have like a more powerful, like, do they like sit up really straight when they speak, and so like their voice is more powerful, you know? Or like, are they the kind of person do they project all the time? Do they feel like they need to project all the time? So it's more than just like the range that comes into play when you're thinking of like vocal placement and like timbre and texture and everything. So many things come into it. And I feel like a lot of those come once I get to know the character. I'm like, who is this person? Yeah. And then I'm like, if I imagine that person, what would they sound like? Yeah. And then I go to that.
Yeah. Wow, dude. Like, hearing you talk about voice acting, it's just so much stuff that like my brain never, like, I never thought about. Oh my God, like it's reaching corners that I'm like, oh my God, there's this, and then there's this, and then oh wait, there's also this to do. It's even crazy for me to think that like before playing these games, like I never thought of voice acting like that. So now that like I'm playing these gacha games, I pay attention to voice acting a lot more than I used to. And it's now even crazier to be talking to a voice actor who has all these experience in sharing personal things. So yeah, I feel like my brain I'm just learning constantly.
It's so much fun, dude. It's like, that's how I feel when I talk to artists with art. I'm like, what do you mean light theory, color theory? Like, you're doing anatomy studies. What the? You don't just draw hands. You know what I mean? It's a similar thing. You don't just do the voice. Like, you don't just like color, you know what I mean? Like there's so much more to it, and like everyone approaches it differently, and everyone learns differently, and everyone has different experiences, and then they all come together and they create this like beautiful art that we all love and enjoy, that also stresses us out because it also pays the bills. And we all you know, it's all gig economy for all of us. So
before playing like gacha stuff, I never thought of voice acting like on another level. It's just like, oh, like wow, they're really good at voice acting. Okay, they're playing like an emotion, but then now it's like there's levels and levels and like 100 layers of levels to like this whole voice acting. So I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts and, you know, experience on this. To finish off, we've been talking for a long time, and it's funny because I actually have so much more questions, but we can always do a part 2, you know?
Yeah.
So it's talking about your first gacha game. I wanted to ask about what is your top gacha waifu? I would ask husbando, but I think we all know it's aventurine. Unless it's not aventurine. But I do want to know what your top waifu in husbando is in a gacha game.
That's tough. I mean, I've been looking at Evelyn a little differently, I will say.
Dude, her physics is crazy good. And I think her play style, beautiful.
Yeah, I will say probably the top of my mind, and of course there's a little bit of recency bias here, I would say probably top 2 would be Jane and Evelyn.
I love Jane and Evelyn.
I zoomed in on Jane. I'm not gonna lie. Those riggers knew what they were doing.
Yes, and Evelyn too. It's crazy.
No, like, for real.
Did you play the Zenless snapshot event? So it's where like they have to like steal. Yes. I played it on the last day, like 3 hours before it was ending, and my child was like, oh, you need to play it. And like just start taking pictures. And when I started taking pictures, I was like, wait, this is crazy good. Like the model is so detailed. Like the mesh, the shading, like the lighting of everything. I was like, wow, Evelyn looks great. And I love Jane. I love her.
Oh, yeah. No, there's so much thought that goes into their choreography, which I just would have never considered, because you think, you know, like when people are talking and you take a screenshot of someone talking, we probably look ridiculous, right?
Yeah.
But not a single character in Zenless has that looking ridiculous moment if you take a random screenshot. They all look photo ready, and that's not fair.
Yeah. Yeah, they're posing. They're posing.
That's not fair.
So yeah, what about like husbando?
I mean, of course there's aventurine, but I will say, Mighty's catching my eye too. I mean,
I cannot wait for him to come out so I can see a reaction. Just saying.
I've done a little bit of analysis. I have to tread carefully though, because I am friends with Gabe, and I'm like, Gabe, I'm separating you from Mighty, dude. I cannot, because those two are so different. It's so funny.
Oh my gosh.
Like Gabe is like kind of a. I'm sorry, Gabe, if you would ever see this. He's such a like a friendly guy. He's like kind of a goof, and then Mighty is just like.
Yeah, I feel bad if I say it, but like he's such a good looking person, and like it feels like a player. Wait, did you see in the trailer the way he sits on his throne? He sits and he leans back, and I don't know if you saw that, but in that moment I like screeched, and I was like, oh my god, like the way he just leans into his chair, and I guess people call it like man spreading, but he just looks good, you know? So yeah, I was like, oh my god, like it's just crazy, but wow.
That's so good. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Ruby's like, I like the man spreading. I'm not gonna say it verbatim, but I do.
I'm embarrassed, but like when I saw that, I was like, whoa, this looks good. I love it. I want to see more.
So funny.
But if I were to say my top like husbandos, honestly, Star Rail. I use Ratio, but I like Ratio for his personality, but he's not like a husbando, you know? I like Venturine a lot, so I'm with you on that for sure.
I used to hate Aventurine, dude.
Really?
And then I saw his splash art, and it was all over.
What was that? Was it a 1 hour or 30 minutes video of just you fangirling over Venturine? It was perfect.
There's both. Technically.
It was beautiful. Like I loved watching it. It was hilarious. I was like, this is so relatable. So yeah,
I was like, you know, I'm having this moment, and I was talking to someone, and I was like, you know, I don't have a YouTube channel, but I guess if I'm doing this to myself, I may as well be the one to upload it. It was my first upload on the channel, was that 20-minute long video. I was like, someone's gonna upload it. I may as well do it.
Yep. And then, so now it's like no one can make fun of you because you're the one that posted it. You know, you exposed yourself. That's like the
what
power.
I'm saying.
That's the power, you know, uploading it.
That's what I'm saying. And the way that like over 250,000 people have seen that video, that's unfortunately my digital footprint now.
It's okay. It's okay.
I think
I've had some interesting digital footprints as well. But it builds character. You know, it's
builds
a nice
character.
Yeah.
We're all human. We just, you know, we just get caught in 6K sometimes.
Yeah, 6K sometimes. I'm dead. Okay, wait. So I know I said last question, but talking about husbandos, have you seen Love in Deep Space? Just curious.
I have seen it. I have not played it.
Have you seen like the characters at least? Like, you know,
they lean all the way into that. I don't know any of the characters' names, but they are all very pretty.
Yeah, have you like played otome games then, at least?
Maybe
some.
Am adjacent to that space because one of my good friends is an otome like developer. So I know a lot about it and I understand it. I just haven't played any of them. But like I know it, I understand it, I appreciate it. And like, hell yeah. I have just never played an otome game myself.
It's okay. I was going to say like the excitement that I think someone brought up my stream, but it was like when they saw your reaction to venturing, that was my reaction to like Love in Deep Space. So, yeah, you know,
I don't blame you.
I was like, I'm really excited to see like the future Star Wars characters. You know, I want to see your reaction because I know like I won't be alone, I guess.
Hell yeah, girl, we got this.
So yeah,
we'll do our best.
I know. I'm so excited. But yeah, Sam, thank you so much for being on here with me, for chatting. You gave so much insight, so much, you know, thoughts, experience, stories. I really, really, really enjoyed hearing it. And I'm sure the audience has as well.
Oh, thanks for having me, Rubee. It's always a pleasure spending time with you.
I know. I would love to do this again. For those who are watching, I hope you guys check out Sam. If you guys haven't, what are you doing? Because Sam is the best. Literally, she has YouTube. She streams on Twitch. She's hilarious. Go check her out on Twitter and whatnot. And of course, the question that Sam has for you guys is, what is your first gacha game? Yeah, Sam, would you like to say anything else? Whether promote yourself, about yourself?
Yeah, well, thank you guys for having me. I'm passionately persistent when it comes to things that I love doing. And whatever you guys want to do, like, and you're thinking, I want to try something, this is your sign to do it.
Yep.
Try it. There's
Lots of
no
freaking-
harm in trying something. Like, see if it works out. You never know. Maybe you'll go questioning your entire career path and wonder why you got a master's degree and then start pursuing the thing that you started as a hobby and start monetizing it. And now that's your new career path. You never know.
Yeah, no, it's awesome because like, so for me to do this podcast is like something I've always wanted to try, but I've been afraid.
Mhm.
And so like one thing to take away is like, it's like the fear of rejection and failure is what stops a lot of us, you know, but
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I'm doing what I'm trying to do. And then
Hell
like,
yeah.
like you mentioned the rejection rates and whatnot, but then like you're here now, you know, you're only going up from here. So super inspirational.
I hope.
to chat. Yeah, if you're listening, don't be afraid to do what you want to do and don't feel discouraged.
Do
'cause-
it. Just do it.
Just do it. That's my best impression.
You
All
have
right.
to like drop that GIF or like the video clip in here now.
Exactly. Now, yeah, just do it.
Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Exactly. I was like, is there any other quotes? I'm trying to remember. Hi, everyone. Thank you for watching. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out Sam.
Yes,
Bye.
sub to Rubee.
Yeah. Bye-bye.